Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another breakfast chat. And today we're going to talk about squat accessories. All right, squat, the lift that I'm the best at, and it's a lift that I'm very good at getting people strong at. I've gotten quite a few of my lifters up to a 500 squat, and interestingly enough, most of them do it without doing a whole lot of actual back squatting, and they do it with no front squatting. It's kind of a point that we need to make here in a minute, and we'll discuss that. But what's the most important tool that I use for my lifters to get there? Speed box squats. Speed box squats are our primary tool that we use, and I'm not saying this is the only way. I'm saying that if you want to use the methods I use in a conjugate type system, instead of a high specificity linear periodization type system, this works. And people need to understand that these different methods and schools of thought are not interchangeable. You can't mix and match and say, oh, I'm going to use these 2 or 3 different schools of thought and mix them all together. They all work, and they've all produced elite squats, right? Some of these different methods. But when you mix and match them, you're going to end up with garbage. You're going to end up with something that doesn't work. So don't do it. So in place of actual back squatting volume, for the most part, I use speed squats. And you guys have watched how my squat has progressed over time, and it's pretty easy to say that this works. Again, this is how I built most of the strength that I got to that 600 camber bar squat with, or 605, when I did that, because I only went into a short phase of back squatting. Right? I went into a short phase of back squatting. I was already squatting well up into the mid 500s, just from doing these methods I'm describing here. So speed boxes. And if you're going to do them raw, they need to be deep. If you're talking about an equipped squat, you can get away with higher boxes for obvious reasons. But if we're talking about a raw squat, they need to be deep. They need to be below parallel. Particularly if you wanted to carry over it all to like Olympic squatting, you better do them deep. Because again, the joint angle specificity. But speed boxes are our primary tool. And I did a whole video on that the other day. You people have seen it. Well, let's talk about the accessory work that we do on top of that to hypertrophy all the muscles involved. Now, people always bring up stuff like quads. Well, don't we need more quads? I'm not saying we don't, but usually that's stuff I worry about for more advanced lifters. I've gotten quite a few guys up to 500 squats, and some of them are less than 200-pound guys. They're not all big guys. A lot of my big guys, 220 plus, they get to 500 pretty easy. But when we're talking about my smaller guys even, like again, the 500 squat I showed you guys the other day, he also, good mornings, 500 pounds. We did not do any quad work to get him there. We have now implemented some quad work. Okay, but he didn't do any quad work outside of his squats and other accessory work. Now, if you do feel you need some quad work, what should you do? If your quads are really lagging, you really need it, single leg exercises, right? Single leg exercises. Romanian deadlifts, not Romanian deadlifts, split squats, step ups, walking lunges, weighted lunges if you like those things. I don't like lunges, but they do work. I just don't like them. I don't like doing them. It's too much balancing, too much hassle. But step ups, Bulgarian split squats, they will work your quads, give you a little extra quad work without beating your body up so that you can recover better. Or you can do hip belt squats if you have access to the devices and the belts to do that, especially if you have a good hip belt squat machine. That will work also. And those work well because they work glutes and hips and other things. Some of those movements work different parts of the hip to different extents, so you need to kind of pick and choose what you're doing. Front squats do not bring up lagging quads. Again, people need to drop that nonsense. The data is overwhelming. They do not work quads any more than front squat or the back squats do. And most of your top experts and coaches on the back squat, a lot of them say there's no carryover anyways. All right, you can spend a lot of time putting 50, 60 pounds on your front squat and go back and your back squat will not have improved. It's just the nature of it. It doesn't carry over that well. Front squatting is for Olympic lifters. That's who it's for. And interestingly enough, the strongest Olympic lifter in the world doesn't even program front squats. He just gets them from his cleans. Okay. For this purpose, they're not a good exercise. People need to forget that. I'm not saying they're a bad exercise. Front squats are a good exercise. For building your squat or building up lagging quads, they are not good at that. So, what are we looking at? We're looking at hip hinge movements. What we need to really focus on for our squat is going to be adductors, which is your groin muscle, the inside of the thigh, the glutes, and the upper back. Okay, that's what's going to do it. Good mornings. King of squat accessories. The number one squat accessory you could be doing. It will get you to a very strong squat faster than anything else. But you have to get very strong on it. And a case in point, the guy I showed you in the speed box squat the other day who hit that 500 back squat, he's probably better now because he's already hit other box squat PRs and things that would indicate he's stronger. He hit a 500 good morning while he only had a 475 squat. But then once we came back and tested his back squat again after other training, he hit that 500. Okay, so what do we mean by get your good morning strong? I'm saying a 500-pound good morning is a good goal, good minimum goal to aim for. It will build your squat because why? It works all the muscles involved. It works all the hip extensors, and it builds the upper back and prepares you for if you get into a situation to where you're trying to good morning the squat, or it's going to happen because it gets too heavy. If your good morning is as close to as strong as your squat, you're already used to being in a more disadvantaged pulled over position with that same heavy weight. You're able to prevent it from happening. It'll let you follow through better. So it helps with the upper back in regards to that. Helps with your back of keeping it stable while still working all those hip extensors. All right, what else? Romanian deadlifts, reverse hypers, glute bridges, all of those things. Fantastic. And notice I don't say hip thrusts. I don't like hip thrusts. That's a whole different topic. I used to do them. I think glute bridges for our purposes here are better and safer. I think they're better and safer. But why these movements? Romanian deadlifts can work the adductors even better than some of these other movements do. Great for stretch reflex on the hamstrings, although we could argue we don't need that much hamstring other than to, again, help us push back more on a power squat. But it works the glutes. And it works the adductors really hard, in addition to a lot of the middle and lower back, which helps with stability. But the adductor aspect of it can carry over quite a bit because, again, adductors and glutes are your most important movers for moving the heaviest weight on a squat. They matter the most, and they're the muscles that hypertrophy the most when we look at squat studies showing hypertrophy. And it doesn't even matter the style of squat. So when I say that, I mean all back squats. Okay, these are things that are high priorities, all these hip hinge movements. And again, reverse hypers, the same thing, builds the glutes really, really, really well. And again, prepares your lower back to handle loads better. All right, so outside of these movements, because again, if we just get really good at all these hip extension movements, build a little bit of quad. All right, it doesn't have to be a major focus because you're going to get quad work from all of it anyways and the box squats. What else? Upper back work. Building a thicker shelf up top not only helps keep you in thoracic extension when the squat gets hard for better leverages, but if we build our upper back, we get a more stable shelf to support it on. And in fact, if we put enough meat back there, the bar moves further back. Right? We don't mean down the back, but it moves further back because when it's set in all that meat, there's more muscle to push it back and for it to sit on. So what do we mean by upper back work? Well, you could do a bunch of snatch grip work. You could do snatch grip high pulls. You could do snatch grip deadlifts. Those things can all help. But rowing, just rowing. I mean, chin-ups and pull-ups can help to some extent, but they hit the upper back a little bit less. Lots of rowing. It could be barbell rows. It could be dumbbell rows, machine rows. It could be inverted rows, right? Lots of rowing. Face pulls. Shrugs. Anything that helps us build traps, posterior deltoids, rhomboids. Anything that helps us build those muscles will help your squat. And that's kind of the finishing touch on all of this. But this is the key to building up a squat, building up the correct musculature. Because at the end of the day, all the research shows us that muscle mass is the single most important factor in a big squat. Other stuff matters, but when we start looking at the closer research on it, it seems to matter the most. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.